A very warm welcome to our Saturday, April 9, 2022 program, our listeners and viewers. This is Shimelis Marasa Gebremichael with UMD News Package for today. We invite you all to stay with the program, and for your feedbacks, please use our email address newstips2020umd at gmail.com. UMD extensively works in understanding, measuring, and doing matters. Our news team attempts to update you with the latest in Ethiopia, the Horn, Africa, and the world in general. Any of your support, including the provision of news tips, comments, questions, and suggestions, are always welcomed. Please support one of East Africa's vibrant media, UMD, in any way possible. Before we jump into our news packet today, here are the headlines for the major news, which were making news for the last couple of days. Ethiopia says Amnesty Human Rights Watch recommendations unhelpful. Tigray government, on the other hand, urged rights groups to further investigate crimes in western Tigray. Protested Protester killed in Sudan as thousands rallied 3 years after an anti-Bashir uprising. UN chief welcomes news of food aid reaching Ethiopia's Tigray. Some are considering these kinds of comments as a joke. What are the justifications of the critics, narratives, and dialogues? If you stay with us until the end, you will hear the essence of this story. Now, we will move into providing more information on these and other news items. As we always say, please do not forget to like and share our programs and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, view the programs in other platforms of your preferences. The first segment of our news is News in Brief, and we invite you again to stay with us. First up, Ethiopia says Amnesty and Human Rights Watch recommendations are unhelpful, vows to examine all allegations of various violations of human rights. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement a couple of days back in response to the report by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International that documented abuses against Tigrayans since November 2020 that amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity in the western Tigray. The report implicated Ethiopian National Defense Forces, Amhara Special Forces, and local militias, as well as the newly appointed administration of the West Tigray zone. The statement by the ministry said that the report by the rights group fuels hatred and makes reconciliation and healing more difficult. The ministry also accused the rights groups of disproportionately blaming one group while absolving another. The statement noted that matters of internal boundaries shall be dealt with by constitutionally mandated bodies and criticized the report for passing judgments on the matter. It is to be recalled that the Amnesty International report has indicated that Amhara regional security forces and civilian authorities in Ethiopia's western Tigray zone have committed widespread abuses against Tigrayans since November 2020. In its 240-page report issued on April 5, 2022, Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch said Ethiopian authorities and Eritrean and Amhara forces have committed crimes against humanity in western Tigray. The report also indicated that Ethiopian government has severely restricted access and independent scrutiny of the region, keeping the campaign of ethnic cleansing largely hidden. Meanwhile, the Tigray government urged rights groups to further investigate crimes in western Tigray. The government of Tigray has called upon Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International to further investigate acts of violence, scrutinize cases, and closely monitor past and existing crimes in western Tigray by allied forces. The Tigray External Affairs Office said that the grave violations of internationally recognized human rights will continue unabated, with even ferocious lethality of occupying Amhara forces and their foreign backers continue to roam free in western Tigray. The Tigray government also reiterated the importance of genuine, credible, and independent investigation, including key forensic evidence. It also underlined the importance of reconsidering approaches by the international community at the violations that have been and continue tragically occurring under their watch, despite the repeated early warnings that could have been averted these catastrophic human rights violations. The government of Tigray also condemned excuse me, the government of Tigray also condemned the disruptions and deliberate demolishing of hiding of evidences by the governments of Ethiopia and Eritrea, the Amhara forces, and other allied forces like the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. In addition, the office, in its four-page statement, also called upon the international community to compel the Abiy regime to allow the commission to do its work without any hindrance. The office also strongly warned all international actors not to continue failing the people of Tigray by not holding the perpetrators of heinous crimes accountable. The Tigray government finally urged the international community to condemn the illegally inhumation of the remains of Tigrayans massacred by Amhara Special Forces, Amhara militia, and the vigilante group FANO, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, and the Eritrean Defense Forces in Western Tigray zone as an act of evidence tampering. Also, late yesterday, we heard that the United States State Department expressed grave concerns about reports of ethnically motivated atrocities from Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, and urged both sides of the conflict to cease hostilities against each other. A State Department spokesman Nate Price said in a statement, note with utmost alarm that thousands of Tigrayans reportedly continue to be detained arbitrarily in life-threatening conditions in western Tigray. He said, United States was deeply troubled by these recent findings by Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. In a similar development, US condemns Eritrea's allegations and cleared misconception. The- In a similar development, US condemns Eritrea's allegations and cleared misconception. The embassy of the United States in Asmara also condemned Eritrea's allegations and made clarity on the misconceptions. In its information released via Twitter account, the embassy indicated that the information in Minister Yamana Gebremichael's April 2 tweet is not accurate. According to the U.S. embassy in Asmara, the Eritrean forces in Tigray raped, looted, killed children, and detained humanitarian access to people in desperate need of assistance is a well documented fact. The embassy said the horrific conduct of the Eritrean defense forces in northern Ethiopia, including the Aksum massacre, has been documented by the Ethiopian Attorney General and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, in addition to the UN, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and many others. The release further noted as several investigations have made clear all parties to the conflict in northern Ethiopia have committed human rights violations. It added these human rights violations must stop, and the perpetrators of these crimes against innocent civilians should be held accountable. It's to be recalled that Eritrean Information Minister Yamane Gebremichael has accused the U.S. as the right groups on his Twitter account, saying TPLF enablers have routinely vacillated between periods of intense defamation campaigns and hibernation of silence. The minister also said the end game is to whitewash its high crimes of insurrection, and they are currently on defamation mode. Millions are left in peril as severe droughts decimate livestock in Ethiopia. Close to 7 million people in Ethiopia are plagued to a severe drought, with scores of livestock dying from a lack of water and food supplies. This is forcing many to head to displaced people camps where they rely on government relief. Local Disaster Risk Management Bureau states that the Somali region, a regional state where 80% of the local population's livestock livelihood depends on livestock, is among the places suffering great losses, with well over a million domesticated animals dying there. According to Reuters, a mass of nearly herdsmen migrated to a settlement adjacent to the city of Gode about 2.5 months ago. The herdsmen are doing this hoping to get the water and food provided by the government, with the number of households at the site increasing to more than 2,200 from about 400. Concerns are also rising that an increasing number of people came to the settlement to seek the government's relief. The minimum food and water which is being supplied could no longer meet the needs. Officials say the efforts so far have not been enough, but hope that the burden can be shared across several other displacement camps across the region. Tamrat Nagara released on bail after 4 months behind bars. Owner and founder of Tarara Network Media, Tamrat Nagara was recently released from prison after a Supreme Court in Oromia region of Ethiopia allowed it. The known condition for his release, as reported in the media, is a 50,000 Ethiopian birr bail. Gamechu Gutama told VOA Amharic service that he asked the court for a bail right. Tamrat had been in jail for over 4 months now. For the first few weeks, the government did not disclose his whereabouts. After he was arrested in early December from his residence in the capital Addis Ababa, he was transferred to the Oromia region without legal procedures. The Oromia region does not have legal jurisdiction over Addis Ababa despite exclusive claim over it. Though the court has said the cause for his arrest is related to terrorism charges, critics were saying that he might be targeted for his harsh critics against Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki's governments. Tamrat has also been openly vocal about the need to dismantle ethnic-based federalism in Ethiopia. Ethiopian activists who are active in social media had been calling for his unconditional release. Organizations like the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, welcomed the release of Tamrat Nagara. Protester killed in Sudan as thousands rally 3 years after an anti-Bashir uprising. A Sudanese protester was killed Wednesday as thousands rallied against last year's military coup on the anniversary of a previous popular uprising, most recently against autocrat Omar al-Bashir 3 years ago. The Independent Central Committee of Sudan doctor said the 19-year-old was hit by a bullet fired by coup forces during the crackdown on the demonstration in eastern Khartoum. The committee said his days brings to 94 the days toll from the crackdown on anti coup protests since the October 25 military coup led by Army Chief Abdul Fattah al Burhan. Witnesses and AFP correspondents said security forces fired tear gas at the demonstrators in the capital Khartoum, its twin city of Omdurman, and in Wad Madani to the south. Sudan has been reeling from deepening unrest since its latest coup that has detailed a political transition period and hammered the economy of one of the world's poorest countries. Pro-democracy activists had warned online of um, online of a people power earthquake of April 6, a momentous day in Sudan's history that was key in bringing down earlier a strong man. We'll now move to one story we have chosen today to present to you in more details. That is, UNTIF welcomes news of food aid reaching Ethiopia's Tigray. Some are considering these kinds of comments as a joke given the dire need of the people. The Tigray government is one which issued a statement regarding these ideas. UMD has looked this story in more detail in our edition today. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has recently welcomed the news that trucks with food assistance and fuel have reached Tigray and Afar following the declaration of the humanitarian truce. Through a statement, the top UN official called on all parties to keep the momentum and to follow through on their commitments to facilitate the provision of humanitarian assistance to all people in need. He reiterated his call for the restoration of public services in Tigray, including banking, electricity, and telecommunications, as well as commercial access. The statement said the United Nations reiterates its unwavering commitment to supporting a peaceful and prosperous future for all Ethiopians. While welcoming this gesture, some are considering these kinds of comments as irresponsible and lenient given the dire needs of millions of citizens. Action is what most are demanding right now. Following the arrival of the trucks, Tigray government spokesman Getachew Redda said on his Twitter account that the gesture isn't about how many trucks are allowed, but whether there is a system in place to ensure unfettered humanitarian access for the needy. Given the required 300 trucks per day, many are also noting that the action is still a drop in the ocean. The Tigray government is one among these groups. The government of Tigray accordingly urged the international community to urgently facilitate a delivery. The government of Tigray demands an end to misleading and bogus claims vis-a-vis humanitarian aid that has not been delivered. In a statement released on April 7, 2022, the government of Tigray calls upon the international community to exert adequate pressure on the Ethiopian government. The regime, according to the statement, needs to be pressurized with a view to putting an end to World Games, lifting the brutal blockade of Tigray, and resuming discontinued vital social services. The government of Tigray also reiterates its commitment to doing everything in its power to facilitate the delivery of unfettered humanitarian aid into Tigray. The statement added, aside from being a cruel joke at the expense of the victims of a staggering man made humanitarian calamity, making such false claims is also tantamount to participating in the commission of an international crime. According to the statement, only 26 truckloads of supplies have arrived in Tigray over the past 2 weeks. This fact provides incontrovertible evidence that the cessation of hostilities agreement is being used to intensify the brutal blockade of Tigray. The statement also noted, even so, Ethiopian authorities continue to churn out a dizzying drumbeat of a false statement claiming that increasing humanitarian aid is flowing into Tigray. The statement also recapped some members of the international community in clear disregard of their legal, moral, and professional duties are echoing the regime's fictitious narratives, averting that the continual delivery of humanitarian aid into Tigray should be encouraged. Will these dramas end and millions will be extricated from their daily sufferings? We will wait and see. Well, with that, we come to the end of the news for today. This has been Shimelis Marassa Gebremichael here at UMD Media. Please do not forget to like and share our program and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow programs through our other platforms as well to become the first to know what's going on in Ethiopia, the Horn, Africa, and the world in general. You can easily reach us via our email address, newstips2020umd@gmail.com. Thank you for watching and have a good one.